in 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 of those pulses, so it can be really, really short amount of time. This firmware program actually will make an LED blink, but you won't be able to see it because it's too fast. So we need to put a delay in between those two statements. So you can do that with a subroutine. Subroutine, you just call it. It goes to the subroutine, which I have at the bottom, and then it returns when it gets a return statement and goes back where it left off. So in this case, it's a little loop that just goes around and around and around 10,000 times, and it wastes time and then returns. How much time? Well, you can calculate it, but it's a pain, so it's easier to do trial and error. So if it's too long, make 10,000, try 5,000. If it's too short, try maybe, 15 or 20,000. So we're getting close to the whole hello world make an LED blink thing here, but there's one other way to do a delay, and that's with timers, a hardware timer. So most microcontrollers have a hardware timer in them, and it's nothing but a counter. It counts from some big number down to 0. You can tell it how fast or how slow to decrement that number. When it reaches 0, something can happen. And you can tell the microcontroller with some special registers what to do. Well, in this case, it just sets a flag. So we can say, make it count at 1 microsecond downward, set it to 60,000, so after a minute, it'll turn it off. Or a second, rather, it'll turn it off. And that's really it. So another cool thing with software, I'm not making like great software here, but one thing you want to do, there's a main routine, that's the main thing your program does. At the beginning, you initialize all the variables and set up all the hardware to do what you want it to do, including set up the timer to count down, etc. And then you do the program, make the LED blink, and then put it to sleep. Now, sleep just puts it into a very low power mode so that you don't actually have to flip a physical off switch. It just sits there waiting for you to hit the reset button. So all my projects, they do something for either a minute or 3 hours or whatever, and then go into sleep mode. TV Be Gone, which of course I always have with me, it's now in sleep mode. If you push the button, it wakes up and does the thing that makes the world a better place. Okay, so one other thing, just sort of background stuff for doing microcontroller stuff, and this is the thing that scares most people. It's actually, you have to have a computer to hook up to your microcontroller to program it with some cool firmware to do the cool thing of your choice. So the software you need is different depending on what microcontroller you use, and there's all of these different microcontroller companies, and they're all good, and they all kind of suck in their own way. There's always trade-offs. Just like all operating systems suck and all of them have cool things. It's just trade-offs, So there's packages for the AVR, which all of these use. There's one that you just double-click, it installs itself on Windows or Mac OS, and it just works. And it has a text editor, it can compile all the code, and then it can program your chip for you. But you also need to have a little hardware programmer. One of the cool things with AVR is that the hardware programmer is really cheap. Most of it's built into the chip, and you can program it. What's that? Yeah, you can build it yourself, and there's Lady Ada, who just talked before, has one for like $15 or $20, something like that. There are other people who have it for a similar price. The company who makes the chip sells it for like 25 or 30. And it's cool. And PIC is also a really good one. I use AVR just because I learned it more, so I keep using it. But there's nothing wrong with any of the others. The TV Be Gone uses a Zilog Z8. That's also a good one. But there are a lot of good ones. But one thing, just kind of a plug for AVR, since I like it so much, there's a lot of free open source software and also free open source hardware plans that you can find online and download and build so many different projects. And one of the things that makes it easy to make cool things with microcontrollers is so many are out there, and you can hack already existing, already working ones and change them to make them cooler or to just do something totally different. And one of the things with microcontrollers, the hardware is almost always very similar from project to project to project. All of these things have almost the same hardware, but the firmware is different. You just program it with something different firmware, and you have something totally different. Rather than the mini POV, I just changed the hardware a little bit, put new firmware in, and it's a brain machine. Or it's this RGB trippy light, or whatever these things are. You know, you can do so many different things with it. Back to AVR, one other thing is there's avrfreaks.org. And there are thousands of geeks all over the world, 24/7, who would love nothing better than to answer your questions about AVR chips. Sad, strange, but true. And if you get a the hardware bug, maybe you'll be one of them. I know I often am. So here's a real project. This is like a brief overview of how Lady Ada's Mini POV3 kit works. I actually made something very similar to this with an older, clunkier microcontroller in 1990. It costs a lot more than the technology now. But let's say you just want to make the letter M. You can program the firmware to have a little section which is just data. And the data can be representing M. So what I have here is columns. So those are actually 1 byte of program memory. So what you do is take that byte, all of them are 1 to make the LEDs on in the first column, put that on all of the pins of the port A, and that turns all the lights on. Then take the next byte, which has only 1 bit high, put that in the port, which is connected to the LEDs. So now all of them turn off except that one, and then that LED lights. And then do the next byte, the next byte, the next byte until you finish, and then just rotate through and repeat. And when you do that, it just sits there and looks like it's flickering. But because of our persistence of vision, actually, if you wiggle your eyes back and forth quickly without moving your head, don't move your head, just your eyeballs back and forth, look crazy, like someone on the subway. And you might be able to see that there's some strange things in there. But it's a lot easier to, we can look crazy without doing that and just look at this. So, so that's how that works. And like I said earlier, I just hacked this, since it's just an easy development platform, really, to do a whole bunch of different projects. The first one I actually did was the brain machine, but I'm going to show you that one last in this sequence. Here's how to hack this into a TV Be Gone. So you can see with the pictures here, the hardware is exactly the same with some minor differences. I didn't bother putting in all of the visible LEDs. I only put in one, and I put in a infrared LED. That's how TV remote controls work, with invisible infrared light pulsing in certain ways, so that when the TV sees the pulsing sequence for off, it does the cool thing and turns itself off. If you tell it to do something else, it does uncool things. That's the infrared emitter, and every time it puts out an off code, the visible LED will blink. So I don't know if you can see that in this light, but this has 2,000 bytes of program memory, and it can be programmed through the programming port. And that's not really enough for too many codes, only for 8 codes. So I actually hacked this hack and came up with the TV Be Gone kit along with Lady Ada. That has 8K of flash, which is enough for 44 of the most popular codes. And I also, for that, put in 4 infrared emitters so that it, and Yeah, and the same battery. So it gets out, 150 to 200 feet. Another thing that I did, just because I thought it was cool, was a trippy RGB light. And each of these projects uses a different aspect of the microcontroller to just try to show what microcontrollers can do. Oh yeah, one thing. This is a hat with a TV Be Gone kit glued to the brim. Here's the batteries, and here's an extra little activator switch. So you can look stylish and geeky, and all you got to do is sort of scratch your head and look at a TV, and it turns off. Yeah, so anyone can do that. It's very easy. I actually wrote a small article in Make Magazine, the last issue, about how to do that. The trippy RGB light is just kind of a fun one. Rather than have all red lights, I only need 3 lights, one of them red, one green, one blue. And the cool thing with red, green, and blue is you can mix them together in various intensities, and you can get any color that a computer monitor can have, because that's exactly how computer monitors work. Or TVs, but we won't talk about them. And the way that I vary the brightness is with this thing called pulse width modulation. And that's sort of a more advanced topic, but what you do is you turn the LED on and off very quickly so that you can't tell that it's actually blinking, because it's going faster than your eyes can see that. And, but if you have it on for half the time and off for half the time, then it gets half the brightness. If you have it on for a lot and off for just a little, then it's really bright. If you have it on for just a little and off for most of that time, then it's really dim. Let me show you this. So here's a more powerful version. If you can make it a low power one, you can make a high power one, and high power is always cool. So anyways, maybe you can see that these are actually look like they're kind of blinking now rather than, I don't know, can you see that, or is it too bright in here? Yeah, anyways, it's using pulse width. Oh yeah, that helps. It won't make a pattern in the air because it's just doing pulse width modulation rather than trying to make words and pictures, but that's it. But if you then put this in a diffusing chamber, like this Parmesan cheese shaker, if you turn on the lights, maybe we can make that work. Maybe you can see there's more than just red, green, and blue happening here. Maybe there's some yellow and, yeah, I don't know. It's not a part of the sequence where it's making too many colors. Yeah, maybe some lime green and aquamarine. Yeah, whatever. So it's what it is. This is totally silly, but this is a solar bug bot. So way overkill with a microcontroller, but what the hell? Microcontrollers are only $1, so why not put it to use? One of the things that's been sort of popular is a vibrobot. So if you take a motor and put something off-center, as it rotates, then it vibrates, like in your cell phone. And I did that by soldering a alligator clip to the rotor of a motor. This is basically the same as a mini POV kit, except that it has as one of its outputs hooked to a motor, so when that bit goes high, the motor spins. I have another bit hooked to a speaker, so as the bit goes high and low and high and low, it makes sound through the speaker. And then I have 2 of the LEDs going to the antennae here. And I also have a solar cell going to an analog input. And you can program this microcontroller so when it's less than a certain voltage or more than a certain voltage, you can do different things. So this one, if it's a low voltage, no light, it just sits there and he blinks. If it's a high voltage, he sings and dances. So vibrating the motor makes him wiggle around and he moves forward on his pipe cleaner legs. And the speaker is set to chirp kind of like an insect, vaguely. So that's that cute little guy. And the The LED Cube is actually the first project I helped with New York City NYC Resistor, a new hackerspace that just formed in New York City. And we got the idea for this from these really big cubes in Chaos Computer Congress in Berlin. These guys are crazy. In order to make these big ones, there's